Celeb Savant is a career retrospective type interview focusing on singers, actors, and industry experts. Join Barrett Edelstein now as he dives into the entertainment world.
Tynisha Keli is an American singer and songwriter who has seen her greatest success in Japan. She is best known for the single I Wish You Loved Me. Tynisha's debut album, The Chronicles of TK, was released in Japan in 2009. The album peaked at number 12 on the Japanese albums chart and sold 600,000 copies. The album's second single, Shattered, reached number 4 on Billboard's Japan Hot 100. Her second album, The Fifth Element, was released in 2010 in Japan. It debuted at number 1 on Japan's iTunes. The first single released from the album, Love Hurts, also debuted at number 1. The album peaked at number 36 on the Japanese album charts. Tynisha took a forced break from the music industry for a number of years. In 2026, she releases her third studio album, The Chronicles of TK, The Phoenix. She has a new record deal with Humble Sound Records, and she's working with Grammy-nominated James Artisan. Up next on Celeb Savant, we've got Tynisha Keli. Where in the world are you and how are you doing?
I am currently in Atlanta, Georgia. I am doing absolutely wonderful, aside from little minor head cold, but I'm good.
At what age, whether as a child or teenager, did you think, okay, I want to be in this music creative world? And how did that journey progress?
Ooh, that's a long-winded answer. But to make it short, when I started singing, I was about 5, 6 years old. It progressed, and I never really wanted to be an artist until I was about 14 years old, and my manager that had become my manager just to kind of teach me how to be an artist, dancing and singing and making things my own. That was at 13. And I watched a New Edition video, If It Isn't Love, and I watched them in rehearsals, and I saw what it took to actually be an artist and to do those things that I watched that I didn't necessarily want to do. Music was just my outlet as a kid to kind of get some saving grace because I didn't really have much of that around me. But once I saw the If It Isn't Love video by New Edition, I said, that's what I want to do. I want to be an artist. I want to do that. So, yeah, I was 14.
Okay, so now what were the next steps? How did then that become professional?
Well, I had already been working towards being an artist. I just didn't know that I was doing that. I was just kind of honing my craft. Thank you to Scott Ross, shout out to him, who was part of Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. He was the Funky Bunch. He ended up becoming my guardian when I was 13. So he taught me everything that I knew about performing, and he brought me to my first talent show that I won second place. I won second place to a comedian. So I was really hurt over it, but he trained me. He used to make me, jog around the high school while he drove, and he built me up to be the artist, but I wasn't necessarily trying to be an artist. I just enjoyed having that stability in my life and something to look forward to every day. So yeah, I was already forming that persona, that artist. I was already forming it before I knew what I wanted to do.
So now then becoming professional and diving into the world completely, were there any aspects at the time that surprised you that were parts of the process that you didn't think would be part of the process? Or was all that focus and training giving you the groundwork to dive straight into it when you went into it?
You hit the nail on the head on the tail end of that. I definitely dove into it. I think the blessing for me is that there weren't distractions for me because I was so hyper-focused on what I had to do as an artist, what was instilled in me to be able to be that. So I wasn't distracted by the things that were going on in the industry, like a lot of other people that I've seen fall victim to it. And I'm grateful for that because I didn't really have much except for my manager at the time. I didn't have family or anything like that once I got to LA at 15 and signed my first deal. So I didn't have any of that. So staying hyper-focused, the goal is, which is to pour into my craft. It wasn't really a shock value, until I had like small little experiences that I kind of like to keep personal, but little experiences that didn't necessarily change me or anything. I come from really humble beginnings and very rough upbringing. So it wasn't something that was like shocking to me. I was just in survival mode. It was just, a little girl just raising herself in the industry, making good choices.
How do you create a song?
Inspiration first. Got to be inspired by something. Something has to inspire you. I didn't write my first song really technically till I was 18, turning 19 years old. Before that, I was doing poetry for a long time. Since I was a kid, I used to write poetry. Everything falls into a separate category. So it's like, if I'm writing for others, I kind of got to put myself in their headspace. I got to understand them. I got to know how they think, how they operate to conform, the record to them. If I'm writing for myself, I just draw from an inspiration that anything that I can see. If I watch a movie and I hear a line, I'll take that and go write a whole song about that one line that I heard. Or if it's something that I'm just dealing with at the moment, spur of the moment, I go right into the studio and I just get it out. Really, writing for me is a form of therapy and all in and of itself. And by the time I'm done with the session, I'm over it. So there's really no special formula to it. It's just really about inspiration and really sticking to your creativity and challenging yourself.
What percentage of your writing is for others compared to for yourself? Is it 50-50, a little bit more for others, a little bit more for yourself?
It just depends on who's working with me. If I'm working by myself, most of the time it's 100% mine lyrically and melodically. But if I'm working with other artists or other writers, then it's obviously 50-50. It's just a fair split, regardless of who's doing what.
And you often write songs for other artists, not necessarily for yourself.
I did for a long time in the beginning of I did. Mm-hmm.
And you don't do that anymore?
I mean, I would. I haven't done it in so long. I'm just focused on me right now, and then we'll extend it because I just got back to doing this full time in the industry again because I had to walk away before, which I'm sure we'll get to. But
if you're comfortable in discussing, how long did you step away for, and what was the inspiration to say, okay, I want to get back into it?
I left when I came back from my last trip to Japan because my manager at the time wanted me to sign another contract before we had left to come back to America. I knew that the deal was awful. I had already been signed into 3 different contracts with the same person. So I told him, what else can you possibly get from me? You're my manager, you're my label, and now you want 50% of my publishing. After I just wrote 2 #1 singles myself, I wrote them, and now you want half of my publishing, and they went #1 in Japan. I ended up leaving after I signed it because I needed funds, what I was about to receive for having a #1 single in Japan. I needed the funds to pay my bills, I signed it and gave it to him, and we ended up coming back. And as soon as we landed, he just went missing. It was just like I couldn't get in touch with him. I couldn't get a hold of him. I didn't know what else to do. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to get out of these contracts. And whatever it is, I got to look at the contracts. So I tried to get a copy of the contracts, which he was holding because he was power of attorney as well. I trusted him. I trusted him with so much because he was my manager for 5 years. It was kind of like I don't really have a reason to not at the moment, or at any kind of weird moment. But so by the time we had landed and then he went missing and I tried to get in contact and then I made the decision that I was going to leave, and I tried to get the contracts and they would not give it to me. They would not give me the contracts to get out of. So I talked to my attorney and I said, what are my options? Because I hadn't received my funds from my single going #1 that I wrote. He ended up collecting the funds for it. So I not only got robbed for everything, basically the lawyer said my only option is to, without saying anything, leave the industry for a little while. Just give it time, let it run its course, and then come back and do what you have to do. But right now, you're obligated to these contracts. And the only other way out is to not tell anyone, not let anyone know that you had to leave based on those premises. But you have to walk away and say, I quit. That's the only way out of the contract. So I had to walk away and make people believe that I was done with music, and I wasn't. That already starts the answer to the next question, which is, why did you come back? I was never done. I had to be done at the moment I had to kind of put it on the back burner, but for everyone else, I was done.
I've heard so many of these types of stories in speaking to different artists, and it makes me so angry. It was like,
Yeah.
trust people. And anyway, it is what it is. And we're now moving forward, which is very exciting because you're creating again and you're back in the space. I know it's all very secretive in your guys' world. So what can you tell us is coming up over the next period of time?
Oh my goodness. The official third studio album. We have the first album, which is the Chronicles of TK that we put out in 2008, end of 2008, and then, no, 2009. And then we have the Fifth Element that they ended up taking down out of spite because I left. But that is my technical second album, the Fifth Element. And then now we have the third official studio album, which 15 years later, here we are. Here we are now doing the Chronicles of TK, The Phoenix, which is, in other words, part 2, but this is called The Phoenix. So it's the second part to the first album, just kind of running concurrent.
And when does that come out?
We don't have a technical release date, but we are shooting for it this summer.
What do you enjoy about performing live?
The energy exchange with my supporters, for one. There's nothing more fulfilling than hearing your work that you had to endure, go through, and then write out, because I've understood what my purpose is. I've come to that understanding after losing everything and not doing it with God the first time. And I've understood, like, I have to endure in order to create certain songs that people hold on so tight to and say, oh my gosh, this saved my life, or this helped me. So I have to endure before I can write those things down. I say all that, the endurance thing, to say, when I'm performing live, I get to actually see what it has done for other people in real time. That in return is a gift for me. It's not about money or praise or fame. All of those things is idolatry, and I'm a woman of God, so I don't. That's actually one thing that's kind of stood in my way, is that I've always said I don't want anybody praising me. You know, even when I was in the beginning, I don't want nobody praising me. I just want you guys to love the music, enjoy it, have a great time with it, use it for what you need to use it for. But don't cry. Don't cry. Oh my God. That it makes me feel like I'm taking away from our God that deserves the praise, because it's really him. My sister in Christ had to sit me down and tell me it's not you that they're praising. It's not you that's doing it, it's God. So you have to remember that when you're doing it. But at the end of the day, that is what makes me more fulfilled when I'm live and I'm performing in front of my crowd, my babies. I call them my babies because they're all my babies, whether they're older than me or not. They're my babies. They make me feel good. They're amazing.
I love me a CD. I still budget my CDs every month. For me, it's an energy exchange to say thank you to you guys for all the hard work that you do. I love the journey of the choice, the unpacking, the booklet, listening to song from 1 to whatever number. I'm not sure if you are or not aware, there's a massive uptick of physical around the world. 2-3 years ago in the UK, 5.9 million vinyl sold, the biggest since 1990. Last year in the UK as well, there's a basket of products that they gauge exchanges on. And based on these exchanges, which there needs to be a high number every day, they monitor it for tax purposes. And because of the upsurge of CDs again, CDs are now back in the basket. The research is showing that it's the teenagers, the younger kids diving into this world, not necessarily the older nostalgic people. Then we also have the DSPs, the Spotifys and so forth, where people consume music on. What are your observations of the landscape at the moment?
I think it's just going according to protocol of evolution. History repeats itself, sometimes in the greatest ways, sometimes in the worst ways. In this situation, for us, this is an amazing way. I mean, I love that children are getting to experience what we experienced. You know, CDs were amazing. Are you kidding me? Having to pack your 6 things of CDs and put it in your car, and the joy of standing in line to go buy a CD alone. It's like buying a new PlayStation or a new toy or a new gadget that you want. But it's music. So for me, that's a huge thing. You know, I didn't grow up in the era of vinyl, but I'm intrigued. So I respect all areas and aspects of it, because, you know, streaming was obviously the evolution of music. Everything has to evolve at some point. Like I said, history repeats itself. So I'm really grateful for the CDs coming back. I'm grateful for the vinyls coming back. Hey, give us all three avenues of revenue. We'll take it. Hey, but on a personal level, I'm absolutely super excited about CDs coming back and stuff because gives me nostalgia. I want nostalgia too. I don't want to just be nostalgia. I want to have nostalgia. So yeah, I'm excited for it.
Do you think, though, there needs to be more of an education piece for the listeners? I'll give you an example why. So I teach spinning classes, and last year I decided to do a couple of focus groups. It was a group of 10 people and then a group of 8 people. And these people generally listen to music on download digital Spotify.
Stream, yeah.
Yeah, streaming. Cross-cultural, cross-age, generational, and so forth. And I said to the two groups of people, I said, if an artist has had 100 million streams, how much money do they think the artist got in their back pocket? The first group of people said $50 million. The second group of people said $1 million. And I said, no, it's more like $1,000 or $2,000. Yes. I do know that Ray, Snoop Dogg, a bunch of different people are speaking out about sort of this imbalance of energy exchange around it. Do you think the general audience, and I don't like the word general, but the people who sort of are not in the industry should have more education piece to understand what's going on?
I do, because I think that when you're supporting an artist and you really want to support them in a way that helps to propel them, I think you should know the difference between purchasing something and what that does for the artist versus you streaming 5,000, a song 5,000 times a day and knowing that's really not going to suffice for an artist. If you want to support an artist, you're going to figure out the greatest ways possible to support that artist. People buy merch. People, will go to concerts and still buy other things that will represent you supporting them. I do. I do agree with the sentiment that people the general public should know. I don't think in detail because I feel like that's private for us. Okay. They shouldn't know personal things like that. Yeah. But I think for the general aspect, I think they should know in tiers where it works. This is most beneficial for the artist. This is less beneficial for an artist, and just showing you the tiers of where it benefits the artist that you want to support. Because if I knew that an artist that I want to come up or that's already come up and has established themselves, but needs to maintain, I want to be able to support that artist to the point where they're not only maintaining, they're progressing and they're propelling in the industry and just in general. So I think it's really important for the public to know. I think there's a limit to it.
Now, during the period of time that you stepped away from the industry, obviously there was a bit of patience around knowing, okay, well, I need to be away. I need to not do what I'm doing. And then I know eventually I'll be back into the space. How did you maintain patience during that period of time?
I accepted that I wasn't going back. One thing about me is like I told you before, I come from very humble and rough beginnings. So I can kind of conform to whatever situations that are thrown at me by the grace of God. And once I found myself back home, I conformed back to what I was used to. And once you conform back to something like that, all the other stuff kind of leaves your brain. And I was trying to process losing a career that I worked my tail off at 14 years old to 24, 25. And it's just gone. It's like that. I just wake up and my everyday schedule is just gone. It's just my music that I love is just gone. But it's very simple to conform back to it. My mind left that place for a long time. And I think that's what kept my wits about me. But I did start putting music back out in 2015. So I really was only gone for 4 years.
I'm just so excited that you're back into it fully, and I can't wait to see how your journey progresses. James Artisan is a lovely friend of the podcast. How did you meet with him, and how did you collaborate with Humble Recordings?
Well, first I'm going to say God, because I don't know how we came across each other, but we just ended up having a conversation, just a little short banter back and forth on social media. And once he kind of understood and heard about like the real story of what happened, James being a good person and having experienced what it's like to be, kind of screwed over as an artist, I'm thankful and I'm very grateful that God sent somebody like him that understands what it's like to go through that. Because James got a big heart, and if he believes in you, he's going to do what he can for you. And his can is quite a lot for me. It started off with losing the Fifth Element, the second album that I told you about in the beginning, and I'm taking it down. The way God works is he'll show himself. He'll show you things that you have to decipher and determine on your own. And at that time, somebody mistakenly ended up putting the album on a streaming service that was in Afghanistan.
Oh.
And I ended up getting the email. So I said, wait, so if somebody's giving permission to use it, who owns the album? Because I'm thinking it belonged to the old manager. Well, come to find out, they had to get permission from some certain source. I don't know who the source was, but they had to get permission from the source. And James luckily came in, and him and his team went and found the source, got the album, and gave me the masters to it and put it up. And it was like, wait, did you just get back something that I worked my tail off for? Me and my troops, because the TK troops, they've always been troops my entire career. That's my fan base, and I love them. So the troops have been waiting for this. Like, they didn't know where it went. You did this? Did you actually do this? And my goodness. And you want nothing from me? Nothing from me? Okay, well, that can only be God sent. So we went from there. It just went up from there. And then he said, is there any other records that you want? I said, yeah, all the records that I wrote that the label denied for the album. Those are probably my biggest records. Defeated, my everything. There's so many records that the label said no to. They actually said no to I Wish You Loved Me, but I, again, fought so hard for it that eventually they were like, wow, it's doing numbers. No kidding. I told you it was a great record. So long story short, me and James it just works. It works because we understand this industry, and he's got a good heart. So I'm grateful that, God sent the right person, the right people into my life to help me get back into this the right way. To be honest, I was too afraid to come back into it fully. I was dipping my toes into it, but I just was too afraid to come back into it. And he made it a lot easier for me to transition back into even signing to him. It was like, okay, I can't be afraid. I have to, go based on faith and just step out on it. He's never given me a reason to think anything else. So let's just keep the faith, Tynisha, just keep it moving, and just allow fate to just work its way.
Understandably why you were afraid. I love this next game. I know if I had to ask you this question tomorrow, the next day, or the next day, I know your answer will be different every time. Because there are millions of them. I'm not saying favorite. I'm saying top of mind. If once we finish this conversation, you wanted to push play to 5 other artists, who would those 5 artists be?
Brandy, Faith Evans. I'm trying to think who I literally listen to on a consistency. It doesn't stop. I love a lot of 90s music, so I'm always going back to my Cut Close. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but they can go and look them up. Cut Close was an amazing girls group. Boyz II Men, and then I got one more. I'm going to go with Jasmine Sullivan.
So, Tynisha, the podcast is listened to throughout the world. As a final message, what would you like to say?
I want to tell you, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to meet you, and this was an amazing interview. You have been a pleasure to have a conversation with, so thank you so much. And the single Standing On It comes out in America. Please grab that. And we have a second single following up called The Phoenix. We don't have a specific date for that yet, but that will be followed up. And then following up with that will be the album, The Chronicles of TK, The Phoenix, which will be this summer. If you could pick that up, I would so greatly appreciate it. And thank you so much to all of my supporters that have stood by me through all of this. I really am so grateful. And thank you to our God for giving me another opportunity to see it through.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Celeb Savant. Please follow Barrett on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Celeb Savant. That's CelebSavant.